Alright then, so hopefully now you're going to be quite clued up as to what a function is. It's a block of code to do something that can be invoked and run at any point in our code. So now I want you to cast your mind back to when we were talking about strings and numbers and other data types. Now we use something called methods on those data types which did something for us. And I said that methods and functions are kind of synonymous with one another because they do the same thing, right? They can be invoked to run a bit of code which does something for us. So a method is just a function. Now, what distinguishes methods is the way that we invoke them and where they are defined. Now, if we have just a regular function or an arrow function, and in fact, I'm going to create this, I'll say const greet is equal to an arrow function, and this arrow function is just going to return a value, hello. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to store a result, we'll call it result1, equal to greet. So now when we invoke this function like this, we're getting this value back and we're storing it in this variable. So we could log this to the console, we'll just log result1, and this will work. So we should see hello. So notice when we invoke this regular arrow function, we just invoke it like this, the function name and then parentheses. Now, when we use a method, the method is invoked using dot notation. So remember, we could take a string and use a method on it called toUpperCase. And the way we do that is by taking that string and saying dot toUpperCase. So the value, then dot notation, then the method name. Now this is still just a function, right? But the way we invoke it is different. We're using dot notation right here on the value itself. Whereas here, we're not doing that. We're just invoking it directly by saying the function name and then parentheses. In both cases, we do still use parentheses, and in both cases, we can pass in arguments to them. The only difference in how we're calling them is that we're calling a method on the back of something using dot notation. So what I'm going to do is store this in a result as well. So let result2 equal to this thing, and then I'm going to console.log result2, and this is going to work. So I'll save it and preview, and we can see this right here shown. So then, methods are functions, but they're functions which are associated with an object or data type, if you like a string. They're defined on an object or data type, whereas our function was just defined here on its own, not on an object or data type. So we've not covered objects yet, so I don't want you to freak out thinking you don't know what they are, but they're one of the 7 data types in JavaScript. In the future, we will look at objects and then create our own methods on our own objects, and we'll also be using many methods built into the JavaScript language like this thing right here as well. But for now, I just wanted to plant the seed to let you know that these methods that we use are still just functions that do something for us. They're essentially the same thing, just with a different name, and the difference is how we call them and where they are defined. So that is good enough for now.